What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Flyvox Talks Cities, the podcast based around our beloved city building simulation, City Skylines. My name is Flyvox, but I am not alone. With me today is ConflictNerd. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yo, 100%. Thank you for joining, and please tell us a few words about yourself.
Oh man, I've been playing games like City Skylines for longer than I care to admit. I some of the first games I played were like I don't know. Have you heard of a franchise called Stronghold? The castle
Stronghold.
builder.
It rings a bell, yeah.
That was like the first PC game that I ever played, and it was on a PC in the corner of my great uncle's living room, and it was he had a copy of that game that he bought. I was gifted a copy of that game that was not purchased, but I was too young to realize how they had acquired that copy of Stronghold. But that was like the first PC game I played, and then it was into like SimCity 3000, SimCity 4. So yeah, I've been playing games like this for 25 years, which is
Nice.
scary to think about.
Time does fly. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. It's so true. Okay, so the for games was always there, and then along came City Skylines. So when did you first hear about the game, and is there anything or anyone that inspired you to start playing the game?
Oh, when did I first hear about City Skylines? It would probably have been either end of 2014 or early 2015. So a few months before it came out, I think. Probably 2014, I would say, because I think they were doing dev diaries and showing off the game a little bit. And that's when everyone was starting to get really excited about it. I don't remember who sent me links to these videos, but I know that myself and another YouTuber called James Turner, who at the time had the channel The Sim Supply and had his other channel Flabaliki. I think his channel is just called James Turner now, but him and I were talking about it and looking at it, and we were like, "This is really cool. This looks amazing," especially after we'd both been really excited about SimCity 2013, and we all saw what kind of happened with that. So,
Yeah.
2 years later, it's like, hey, here's a game that actually looks like the city builder we all wanted. I think I think that would cover it. I think that's about when I heard about it, and then I started playing it. I want to say I might have got early access to it about a week before it came out. I don't remember if I
Oh.
did. I I I think it might have been a couple of days. I think I was actually a little bit annoyed, if I remember right, because a few people I knew did get early access a week before, and I only got like 2 days. But I think that's when I first started playing it. Maybe.
Fair, fair. Okay, okay. That's cool. I didn't even know that they had dev diaries for City Skylines 1 back then, because I started playing the game in like 2018 or something, because I started on PlayStation, I started on console. I was never like the PC gamer, so I got into it very, very late, actually.
Oh man, I think I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure there were some that showed off how the zoning worked and how the roads worked. I vividly remember there might have been one that showed off. I don't think they were planning on showing it off, but it showed off the water physics in Cities 1, and you could just see this water sort of moving like this weird. I mean, the Cities 1 water isn't perfect. It's kind of like a really thick jello, but it's even watching that, almost 10 years ago was like, oh man, that's really cool. So you could totally flood your city, or you could totally make canals, or you could do this. And I mean, you sort of couldn't do all of that because there were no mods and there were no keys, and there was a lot of stuff that wasn't really there. I think there might have been basic keys, but there was no meaningful mods or any way to do any of that stuff. But again, it was one of those things that was like, there's so much detail in here, and there's physics, and the roads are cool, and the zoning's cool. And I mean, there was stuff like that for SimCity 2013. It wasn't quite as in depth, but there were videos showing it off. So I was getting really hyped up about it, but I was also a little part of me was like, man, I hope this isn't going to be a repeat of SimCity.
Oh, yeah, I only read up about that after discovering City Skylines, what would happen with Sim City 2013. So I didn't even like own a gaming computer up until like 2020 or something, when I started playing cities on PC. So I never really, I actually never played a SimCity game. I might have dabbled in it at a friend's house or something, but never for myself. I've never played a SimCity game. So it was really interesting actually to read up on all the history of City Skylines because that was something that interested me very much. And to read about the SimCity 2013, I was like, oh wow, interesting. And what a great opportunity back then for Colossal Order to just like jump in there. Um,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was it was a whole thing because it was always online. They launched it and basically the servers all died.
right.
So a handful of people could get in and play it. And I had I don't know how many subscribers or views I was getting around the time. My channel would have been maybe my channel would have been maybe not even a year old at this point. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember I was one of the few that got in. My game worked. I got into
Oh,
the servers. And so
nice.
I was like, this is my chance. None of the other YouTubers can play this right now. And I was right. I went and looked and no, none of the other channels were playing it because no one could get into the servers. So I was like one of very, very few people making videos in SimCity 2013 for the first day. And I put out like 3 episodes in a single day because it was like, I'm going to capitalize on this. And it worked, man, for a channel that was a couple of months old at the time with no real push or hype behind it. It was the videos were doing a couple of thousand views, which I mean, that was great. I was really excited about it. And honestly, the game wasn't amazing, but it was interesting. I went back and played it last year because it was 10 years since it had come out. And there's a lot of stuff in SimCity 2013 that City Skylines sort of touched on, and City Skylines 2 sort of touches on as well. Like there's still as much of a disaster as the game was, it really wasn't the sequel to SimCity 4 that we all wanted, but there's a lot of good ideas in there.
Mhm.
They just I don't want to get into the whole oh EA's bad, EA's terrible. They weren't great at the time, but I think if that team was given a little bit more freedom, a bit more time, and a bit more room to not be like always online, tiny maps, blah blah blah. I think it would have been a phenomenal. We would be in a very different like gaming environment right now with city builders. I think we would have more SimCity games if they were just given a bit more time and freedom.
Right, right. That was an epic opportunity for you, honestly, as you said, and you cranked out like 3 videos like instantly. That is so cool that you were able to capitalize on that. So what was basically really bad for the game, it turned out to be great for you
Oh
because you
yeah.
did get in. That's really really cool. Yeah.
It was like I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't happy to see other people struggling, but
Of
there
course.
was there was that little part of me that was like, well, I can get into the I didn't close the game for like 2 days. I just left my PC on with the game running because I didn't know if I'd get back in. So when
Right.
other people were putting out like episode 1 of their series, I was on like episode 10 of mine because I was just, it was simpler back then though. You could sit down and record for 25 minutes, do no editing at all, and that was your episode. And now it's like now you record, 4 hours of City Skylines 2 and that's maybe a 25-minute episode.
Yeah. Right, right. Especially in cities too, where
Oh yeah.
things take a bit longer. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
A
Back
little
to
bit.
City Skylines to the first one, yeah. So I vividly remember my first playing experience. What about you? What was your first playing experience like, and was there anything special that you remember from it?
I think the first time I played it, I did want to record it. I don't think that was my first episode. I might be misremembering, but there's a lot of times I'll sit down to play a new game and I'll be like, I'm going to record this and we'll do a series and it'll be, this is me learning how to play it. And I think it was one of those times when I got like an hour into it and I was like, this is terrible because I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
And that can be fun sometimes with some games, but with city builders and games that kind of have strategy to them like that, like a lot of Paradox games, I've found over the years that it's not necessarily as fun to watch someone who has absolutely no idea what they're doing
Right.
because especially with a game like City Skylines, you start out, you build this new starter town, you've got no idea what to do or what goes where or how things work. And then you get 3 4 episodes in and you're like, oh, all that stuff I built is terrible and garbage and I need to bulldoze all of it. So everything we just did for these 5 episodes was all for nothing because it was terrible. So it was It was kind of that. I just built a really terrible town, I think. I don't remember it all too clearly, but I look back on what I did in those early series, maybe not the first one that I did, but it's interesting to look at where I was with the game to where I am now and the things that I've done over the years and just see that, oh, you're always learning with these games. And I think that's what's cool about it.
Mm.
You're always learning like different tips and tricks to do things. And so it's that first playing experience was wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and like, oh, finally we have something that's not SimCity 2013. And I hate to keep coming back to that game because I do have there is a place in my heart for SimCity 2013. It's difficult to find, but it's definitely there.
Fair, fair. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess that all of our first playing experiences were mediocre at best. If I think of mine, like I didn't even know what I was doing. So I just got into the game and like it was a recommendation from a work friend, colleague, coworker, told me, hey, there's this new like building game. New in air quotes. It was like 2018, but it had just it released for console, I think in 2017, and so it was fairly new for console. And he told me like, go check it out. And I was like, always like, I'm not the simulation game type person. I don't really like those games, but I eventually ended up checking out some YouTube videos and instantly got hooked and like just bought it. I bought it for $20 used, and so I got my physical copy here for PlayStation. And yeah, just put the disc in, turned the game on, and just like, okay, I'm just gonna plant some. I think the very first time I played, I just got like instant bankruptcy. So I just like, oh
Oh
right, I
yeah.
need to service it. Oh right, wait, they need water. What? Like, so I think yeah, but I hear from a lot of people like, the first time, yeah, it wasn't too good. It wasn't too good.
No, it was terrible. I love that though as a way of getting into it a few years after it came out, especially with the console editions, which I mean, we'll touch on, Cities 2 and the state of things in a little bit. So I'll not go too much into the state of the console edition
Yeah.
or lack thereof right now, but uh I that was something that was really surprising because I remember when the console edition was announced, I think I might have been at Gamescom the year that they announced it. I know that there was a year that Paradox invited myself and a couple of others to Gamescom to play. I think it was Stellaris actually, but
Oh.
I think Cities on console was there as well. I think this was the first sort of show that they'd shown that off at. And I just remember seeing so many people lining up to play City Skylines on consoles at their booth, and I was like, "This is gonna be something." Because there were so many people where a city builder can never work in console. How can you play City Skylines on an Xbox or a PlayStation? And it went on to become one of the biggest player bases for the game. Like it's the amount of people playing on console is huge because I think people forget you don't get games like City Skylines on console,
Fair.
right? Like on PC, you've got City Skylines, you've got Banished, you've got Manor Lords, you've got uh all the other Anno, you've got Stonehearth, you've got so many options for so many different types of city builders. You can go and play Sim City, you can go and play the old Cities in Motion game. Like there's so many on PC. On console, it's City Skylines. That's it. That's your choice. So it
So true.
was it was huge, and it was really cool to see.
Right, right. I can imagine. And in terms of playing the game yourself, do you have any like memorable moments or great achievements that you like thinking back to?
Oh, I love the fact that I used to sort of be a little, I don't want to say resentful, but I was a little apprehensive about the fact that my channel really did blow up from City Skylines. This would have been years and years ago because obviously your channel blows up for one thing or another and suddenly everyone that's subscribed wants that one thing.
Mm,
And
hmm.
I like playing a lot of games. So it was a little frustrating at times. And I'll say that honestly, it's I'll say it honestly because there's other YouTubers that won't say it, right? It can be really frustrating when you're really excited. Like I'll put out a video on something I'm so excited about, and it doesn't happen anymore, but it did over the years for for about a long time. I would put out a video on something I'm so excited about, and then I look at the comments, and the first comment is, "When's the next episode of City Skylines?" And it's
Uh,
like, man, man, don't do that. Don't be that guy. But no, I am proud now of what Cities has done for the channel, and I'm very grateful for that. But I love that the videos that blew up were the tiered city videos from 20, I want to say 2016, I think is when I did those. No one had really done much let's build type stuff at the time, and no one had really done anything in terms of here's this big ridiculous unrealistic thing at the time either. So I just went and basically made a city that was like a wedding cake. That's basically, three different tiers getting smaller as it goes up, and it was just an experiment really to see how certain mods worked. And it came out of desperation as well. I had the idea for a bit, and I think I was doing my After Dark Let's Play at the time, and somehow the save corrupted, and I
Oh,
wasn't in the habit of doing multiple saves. So these days, if I record an episode of something, I'll save it as a new save. So it'll be, After Dark dash LP dash one dash two dash three. I wasn't doing that. I just had one save for the entire series. So the save
oh,
corrupted, and it was doing really well. And I was really proud of how it was doing. It was getting like 1,500 views per episode. And I was like, man, my channel's starting to grow and it's getting attention and people are watching my videos and now I can't continue it. And I need an episode for tomorrow and I can't record it. And I'd written on a piece of paper on my desk, because back then videos took like 5 hours to render and 3 or 4 hours to upload because my internet speed was slow and my PC was terrible. But I'd drawn this idea for like a wedding cake city. I'd actually like drawn it out on a piece of paper. And I was like, okay, this is stupid, but I'm going to do that. That'll be tomorrow's video. And then for the longest time, after a little bit, that video ended up being the most viewed City Skylines video on YouTube for a very long time.
wow.
With and that's something I'm really proud of, because there were huge channels who these days have 10 to 20 to 30 million subscribers who had multiple millions back then as well. And they did their, I made a giant lake and filled it with sewage and then flooded my city with it. Ha ha ha.
Yeah,
And that's
right.
fine. That appeals to that appeals to people. That's okay. But those videos would have 1.5, 2 million views. And I would look at mine on a channel with, however many subscribers, a few thousand or whatever it was. And this video was just, it was like 4 million, 4.5 million these days, I think.
It's got
And it's,
4.3, I think, right now. It's still like your most viewed
yeah.
video.
And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that an idea, because it reinforces the idea that creativity, I can't remember exactly what the phrase is. There's a saying where it's like if you have unlimited resources, you're not going to be as creative as you would be if you had a limited number of resources, right? Like you are
Oh,
forced to be creative when you have less,
right.
right? You need to improvise. So I was just doing my thing. I was just making another episode of the Let's Play, another episode of the Let's Play. Boom, the save corrupted. Okay. I have a really stupid idea that I've written on a piece of paper, but that's all I can do. That video, again, full transparency, was recorded at 3 in the morning. I sat down to start doing it at 3 in the morning. I was done by 6 a.m. My girlfriend at the time was asleep on in the bed on the other side of the room. So I was quietly like building this thing. And then I have to go over sheepishly at like 6:15 in the morning, be like, hey, I hate to wake you up, but I need to record like 20 minutes of commentary. And so I did that at like 6:30. And yeah, just a video that was really easy to make. It was out of desperation, went on to do that. And that video led to my channel sort of getting a lot of attention over the years. And it kind of put my whole channel on the map, really. And then I did it like two other times because I was like, I'm going to capitalize on this.
Well, I mean, you do take what works and try to recreate it in some form. So you did the inverted tier city. I saw that one. And I honestly I love that story. That is such an amazing story. You had like a great thing going for you with the After Dark Let's Play. So, and then the save corrupted, which is no, it's world shattering, right? We all know this feeling. And
Oh, yeah.
then, okay, out of desperation, I'm just going to do this. And bam. Again, I just have it up right now. 4.3 million, your most viewed video, and then the inverted one is 4.2 million. That's amazing. That is
Yep.
so, that is wow. And I love what you said about the being creative with having less, or you're going to be more creative if you have less than if you have a lot of resources. And that's exactly uh, how I think I improved my playing style, my playing ability in City Skylines, because at the time when I started on PlayStation, obviously there were no mods. And so I was always in vanilla. I had all the DLCs because I was instantly like a fanboy and I had to get everything that was out for the
Oh
game.
yeah.
And so I got everything. And so I had all DLCs. But of course, no mods, no customized assets from the Steam Workshop. I learned the game. That was what really helped me, was learning the game vanilla first. So I had to learn it vanilla, of course, and get creative with designs, with layouts, with fixing traffic. Oh my God, no TMPE, right? And and that's really what helped me. Then when I made the switch to PC and playing City Skylines on PC, discovering the Steam Workshop for the first time, because that is overwhelming as it is on its own, right? And so I can't imagine if you like jump in right from the start, get cities and get mods, or browse the Steam Workshop and try to familiarize one with the game itself, and then also at the same time with mods, all the mods that we have. And so I thought that was very good for me to first learn it like 2 years, learn the game in vanilla, and then switch to PC and go over to mod, because I had time to learn the individual mods, because I knew how what the game was about. I knew how to play the game already, which really helped me. And in that vein, what do you prefer? You mentioned you've played modded with your tiered city, of course. Do you prefer modded, or do you also like vanilla?
I like both. I prefer modded. I think it's very difficult sometimes to go back to vanilla uh after you play with a lot of mods. But at the same time, I like that challenge. Like, I've done several series on YouTube and I've had several saves outside of YouTube just for fun that are, not modded, or they'll have mods that are sort of very simple. They're not hugely changing the game. They're just very simple, like little quality of life things, which, I mean, it's still modded. It's not vanilla, but I I I think that what you said though, like that's something I've always recommended to people, is if you're gonna play City Sky, you watch it on YouTube and you see all of these creators with so many mods, Move It and Traffic Manager and Anarchy and Node Controller, and you see like these amazing things that they do. I can't imagine trying to learn to play the game and also learn those mods.
Yeah.
I think you learn to be more creative with cities if you first appreciate just how the game is, right? It's not all about the mods. The mods are there to take what's already pretty good and allow you to sort of go a little bit further with it. They aren't sort of the be all end all. They're not the entire solution. Like, your city should, there's exceptions to it. Some people build these incredible things. There's a creator who I cannot remember the name of his channel, but he recently completed a city that he's been building for the last year or two called Asturis. That's the name of the city.
Okay.
Cannot I wish I could remember the name of his channel. I'm gonna very quickly so I can find it while I talk. But it's basically, Acruus,
I
Akrus.
know that creator. Yeah. I mean, not, I haven't talked to them yet, but I know the channel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris.
his nothing he does would be possible without mods.
Right.
It's some of the most detailed stuff I've ever seen in City Skylines, and that's saying a lot, that since we're coming up in nearly 10 years of it, well, next year. But yeah, I love the modded game, but I do think it's so important to have that understanding of just how the game works outside of it, especially since, if the game updates, most of the mods break, and if you want to play it, you're kind of going to be playing it vanilla until the mods get updated. So yeah, modded's great. Just make sure you understand how it works without them as well, because sometimes you're gonna have no choice but to play without them.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100%. If I play, well, when I play my modded, I usually, actually thinking about it, I usually play modded these days. It's mostly though like the quality of life stuff, right, that I use. But is it possible actually for you to name only five mods that are your top five mods of all time?
Oh man, it might be. Let's find out if it's possible. I think Move It is probably one of the most important mods that's ever existed for either the first or second game because I mean it does what it says in the tin, right? It lets you just move things to be
Yeah.
exactly where you want them to be. You can also, use the marquee tool and copy massive amounts of things. It's hugely important. I think Move It's definitely up there. I think right up there as well would absolutely be Traffic Manager, which I mean, there was an original version of Traffic Manager way back in the day, I think, before we had TMPE. But either or, any mod that lets you have that level of control over your traffic
Mm.
is hugely important, especially given how the traffic simulation is, especially in the first game and the second one after you get about 50,000 people in your city. But again, we'll get there. Uh, we'll get to all of that. So, I mean, Move It, Traffic Manager. I think Anarchy. I mean, Anarchy you can kind of do without if you have Move It, right? You can just move things
Oh,
into other things.
that's
But
true.
I think Anarchy has to have an honorable mention because it existed for a long time before Move It. I think Prop Line Tool is hugely important. That one in particular, I remember one of the first things I ever did creatively in City Skylines was trying to build farms and using the little bushes to sort of make the using the little bushes, the little green bushes to make the hedges to be boundaries on the fields, but then using the colored shrubs and bushes to be the plants and the crops. Placing thousands of those by hand individually is something I will never forget doing because I'm so grateful that I don't have to do that anymore because Prop Line Tool exists and because Move It exists as well. And then I guess as a fifth one, it's either gonna be node controller or network extensions. I can't really. I would. Oh, I mean, I think for usefulness these days, it would have to be node controller. But there was a really long time before node controller was a thing where like network extensions or whatever it was called. Basically, there was a mod. I can't remember if it's always been called network extensions, but it added a bunch of new road types. Just those. I love those. That was such a huge turning point for City Skylines modding because suddenly it was this moment of like, hey, we only ever had 6-lane roads and they were always symmetrical. And I think that was the first time that we started seeing people creating different asymmetrical roads. And that was suddenly it was like, oh, that's a thing you can do. And if you combine an asymmetrical road with Traffic Manager, you can do dedicated turning lanes now because you have 2 lanes going that way, one going that way. One of those is a right turn, one of those is straight on. It was definitely a huge turning point for City Skylines modding, I think. So if I'm not mistaken, I think what was Move It, Traffic Manager, Anarchy, Propline Tool, and I think Network Extensions is going to take out that fifth spot, just ahead of Node Controller.
So cool and very justifiable, if I might add. Yeah. So I do understand that 100%. It's so interesting that you mentioned creating farms with the little shrubs that we had in the game because I did that on PlayStation, but just for fun. That was way before I started creating content. So it's like I just did that by hand, and but I didn't do thousands. I didn't do thousands of like little crop fields, my own custom crop fields there, but just using the different colored trees that we had to create these like little farm areas. Very, very tough to do.
Oh
But
yeah.
the result, oh my
Oh, it
god.
looks amazing.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
right?
It looked so good. The problem was when I did it, I think I was streaming and that was something I kind of like to do was I was like, okay, I've got this little thing I need to do. It's not going to be an episode, but I'll stream it. I can talk with chat or whatever it is. And I'm pretty sure I was like, look, I have this idea. I'm going to do these farms. It might take a while. And I think I did one. I did like the bushes around the outside, and then I did the lines of crops up and down. It would have been a few hundred bushes. And I zoomed out. I did the mistake of zooming out and being like, that looks really good. I want to do more of that. Because if I do more of them, it will look so good. And then I think it was about 4 hours of just placing the individual plants everywhere because it did look really good, but it was a very long day of just placing those everywhere. I can't imagine trying to do that on console.
Yeah, with the controller even like yeah, it was
Mm-hmm.
that was before we got an update on PlayStation where we were able to use keyboard and mouse on the console. So that was before that time. So with the controller, but I did it slightly different than you explained it because I used the dirt walking paths in between. So one walking paths, one row of trees, one bushes, one walking path, one row of trees, and so on and so forth. I think I have an image or two still saved on my phone because I took a snapshot with my phone from the TV.
Oh man.
So if I
Oh
do,
no.
for the audience watching on YouTube, I will throw a picture up like right now if I can find it. Editor Flyvox will take care of that. But
Oh, that's I I've I enjoy to this day whenever I'm playing a game and you're talking to someone saying, "Hey, can you send me a screenshot of what you're doing?" And you open Discord thinking you're about to get a screenshot, and it's just they've just taken a picture of their screen with their phone. I'm like, man, that's like on console. I get it. There was because I think consoles now have like the ability to take screenshots and stuff, but I don't know. I think Xbox had some kind of screen recorder thing. I don't know if PlayStation. I haven't played a PlayStation in a while, but
fair.
it was yeah on console. I get it. On PC though, if it's like, hey, can you take a screenshot of that thing you're doing, and they just send you a picture of their PC screen with their phone. It's like, man, print screen button is right there.
It's
It's
right
right there. It is more effort to get your phone.
literally more effort. That's so true. And I mean, I did have the ability to stream to Twitch from my PlayStation, so I'm pretty sure I had the option to take an in-game screenshot. But I guess I didn't use it. I mean, God only knows why. I don't
I
know.
mean, it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it's fine on console. I think it's fine on console because again, it's not something you immediately think to do on console. At least it wouldn't be for me. Like if I'm playing a console, I'm not thinking about like recording it or streaming it or taking screenshots. And I've been there. Like I've been playing console games. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get a thing and send it to someone. Here's a picture from my phone. That's fine. I'm talking. I mean, it's a tangent. It's not exactly what you did. I'm just having a moment here where I'm remembering all the people that have sent me pictures of their screens on PC, and I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm on a soapbox. I'm calling them out. That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, and I'm not going to stand down.
I mean, it is slightly understandable. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
will. I will die on this hill. That's where I'm standing here.
going into the topic of collaborations in City Skylines, and for anybody listening that does not know how you collaborative do multiplayer in City Skylines, it is basically a save game pass around between multiple builders where a person starts building on a map and then passes that save to the next person, and they in turn build on that same map, adding to the previous build from the other builder. Now, you've been in City Skylines collaboration 5B1C by Zardas. How was your experience with a lot of other creators, a lot of other builders?
It was really intimidating. I've got to be honest, because I haven't really done anything sort of creative with City Skylines in a while, and that's not. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I don't do anything interesting. It's just I haven't done anything with a sort of creative focus. I play the game, and if I feel like building something that's detailed, I'll do it. If I don't, I won't. So going into this and having seen what a lot of these people do, I was like flying around the map and I was looking at the stuff everyone had done and I'm like, oh, this looks so cool. And there's that person's build and that looks amazing. And then this person did that thing and that's so cool. And I was flying around for a couple of hours trying to figure out what I was gonna do. And I remember I recorded like an hour and a half of what was gonna be my episode. And I was like trying to not infringe too much on what other people had done because there was like a downtown area that had some unfinished space in the middle of it, and I was gonna do some stuff in there. I had this idea of doing sort of a like a like a parliament type thing, like a center of government type thing with some shopping around it and plazas, a big, very very city center type space. And I built it a little bit, and I just zoomed out, and I was like, I did that thing again. You zoom out, you look at it, and you either decide it's good or bad. And I was like, that looks terrible because I had to flatten the terrain so much because the buildings are so big, and it was just Yeah, it was really intimidating in a good way. Like everyone was so good at what they'd done and their contributions to it. So I was really going in there and I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to build. And I look at the build that I put out and I'm like, I'm happy with it, but I look at everyone else's and I'm like, their stuff's so much better. It's just I don't know what it is. I'm not trying it's I'm not trying to be like humble or whatever. I genuinely was just really intimidated going in there.
That's a very fitting word because I do remember the very first time I was asked by Zardis to be a guest, which is I think 2 years back when I was the first time, and I had like the exact same moment as you just described, opening the map, just for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just looking around all the areas that have previously been built. And I was like, oh my God, that's from this person. Because these are all the people I watch on YouTube and on
Yeah.
Twitch. And here they are. And now I get to build a small part here. That was so amazing and also intimidating. So I can 100% understand how you felt there. But it was so epic to just fly around the city and just to see the different areas and see all the different styles coming together. That was really cool because every builder has their like unique style and their unique abilities that they use in city building, and that's what I think makes this project such a great one, to have all these different builders with their unique styles coming together and creating this one city. But you still can see the unique spin that the creators put on their areas, of course, but when you look at it as a whole, it's still very nicely, like the city is a nicely put together city, and everything just fits. I found that very epic.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, it sort of makes the city feel a little bit more natural
Mm-hmm.
because realistically, as an actual city grows through years and generations upon generations, it's different people that are deciding that a road is going to go there. It's different people that are saying that this is the type of building we're going to put on that street, or this is the type of business, or it's going to be commercial or residential, whatever it is. So you have you have like historical parts of town that go back a couple of hundred years. You have new parts of town that are maybe 20 years old, and in a way, you kind of get that effect with the collaboration because you have everyone's different build styles whilst they do work together and you kind of see it all come together really nicely. It also sort of it yeah, you have districts, whether or not you paint them in mechanically speaking and say this is the whatever district, you can kind of define it as a district just because of how the people are building it, because of what someone's style or someone's preferences. Some people like one way roads more than others, some people like roundabouts instead of four-way intersections.
Right.
It's a really cool detail to look at in that in the bigger picture sense as well, I think.
Agreed. Yeah. So, Dylan, going into the topic of content creation briefly. So, you had your YouTube channel roughly a year before SimCity 2013 dropped. And when City Skylines dropped, you said that you created a video about learning the game, and you said your experience wasn't that great. So, how or when did you decide to add even more City Skylines content to your channel?
It was just sort of a natural thing, to be honest. I knew I would want to play more of the game because it was just the type of game that I'd played as a kid, and it was the type of game I'd always kind of dabbled in a little bit, and I like city builders and creative games, and so it was just that first experience of learning to play it was basically, let's try this out and let's see what happens, and let's see how this goes. And the first episode was not very good. And then I think what I ended up doing was I went and started another city, and I don't remember if I streamed it or if I just did it in my own time, but I played that for a few hours and used that to figure out how to play the game, which is something that I do. I've done that recently. I still do that to this day. I did that with the Manor Lords. I put a couple of hours into it, did some videos, and was like, okay, I've got sort of the starting part of the game done. Let's go play it for a few hours in a different save and kind of figure out where the game goes from here so that I'm not running around like a headless chicken, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? How does this work? And that's sort of how I learned cities as well. So it was, I kind of had the best of both, right? I had the little bit of a rough start with the learning the game, and here's my first impressions, and here's my first time playing it. But then within a few episodes, it was like, okay, I've kind of got this. I figured this out. I'm not going to be the best at it, but at least I can keep going. I know how to build a city. I know how to make it grow. I know how to manage my services, my water, and well, I say that. I say that I know how to manage the water. To this day, anytime I play City Skylines 1, I still forget to build the pipes. And it's worse since the second one came out because the second one does it for you.
That's so true. I can totally relate. I usually forget to put the pipes down. Usually, I just do.
It's every time, and I tell myself I won't. I started a series, an unmodded series in City Skylines last year, and every other episode I was like, I'm going to put down some pipes, and I'm not going to forget to do it. And then I would run the simulation, and half of the buildings are like, we don't have water, we don't have sewage, because I forgot to put the pipes down.
Such a relatable issue, 100%.
Every time.
So, do you still play City Skylines 1 for fun or only for content at this point?
When it comes to the first one, I haven't played it in a few months. It is mostly a content thing with City Skylines at this point, and it's kind of the same with the second one as well, to be completely honest, because a lot of we kind of touched on it earlier on with City Skylines 2. A lot of things take a lot of time, and I think with City Skylines 1, the further you get into a city, the more it takes to do things as well, because you've kind of done the whole, the first episode of a city's Let's Play these days, for me anyway, is one of the easiest to do because it's just go, 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 go. Right? The game is leading you towards making this city, and it's, put down the pipes and put down the power plant and figure out where things are going to go and all of that stuff. Whereas by episode 10 of a series or 15 of a series, the game's kind of, I don't want to say done, but you've sort of unlocked everything and you figured everything out, and now you're in control. Now you have the narrative. Now you have to keep people interested because the gameplay is done, right? You've built the roads, you've built the city, you've got the landmarks, you've got a very solid idea of what that is. So now you've got to go in there and be like, okay, here's the story of this neighborhood and how we're going to tear it down and build a modern monstrosity, which is fun. I like doing the content. I admittedly haven't done any city stuff in a little while because I'm a little disconnected from it, which we can probably we can touch on in a bit, I'm sure. But it's I did play it recently. I booted up a couple of days ago. I started playing around with Paradox mods, and I'm really excited to play more with those. I'm not gonna lie, it's really cool having them in the game. I was one of those people that was like, man, Steam Workshop was right there, but I'm gonna be honest, Paradox mods is pretty clean. It's pretty cool.
It is neat, yeah, 100%. For me, personally, playing cities, I usually do it for content these days. I do like the game, of course, City Skylines 1, and I barely have time to play any game for myself, actually. So when I have the chance, I try to figure out some content strategy that I can use my short amount of time that I have. So yeah, when I play, I usually play it for content.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I know like there's been weird. I'm gonna try and not go off on sort of a tangent here, but this will circle back to the city's point. There's been really weird eras of YouTube. I remember when I first got started, even before this channel. I had a channel before this that I made in like 2010, and I had channels before that I made in like 2006, 2007. So I've been doing this
Wow.
YouTube thing. I mean, it's been my job for a good few years now, but it was just a hobby back then. But I remember there was this really people got really angry when the topic of like money would come up, and the idea that someone would be doing YouTube for a job. People would be like, "Oh, he's
Oh,
only doing it for the money."
okay.
And then that sort of thing kind of crept into gaming a little bit for a while, and there were a lot of like, "Oh, he only plays this for the views." And I think these days people kind of get it. I don't think anyone's playing City Skylines just for, I mean, you kind of have to enjoy it. It's a bit of an investment. It takes a while to do anything in City Skylines. So, some part of you has to enjoy playing it. But I think doing stuff for content's fine because it's fun, right? This is being a YouTuber is easily one of the best jobs in the world because if as a gaming YouTuber, and this is something I try to remind myself all the time, it's a very, very lucky position to be in. And it's something I'm incredibly grateful for, incredibly proud of. And I, can never thank the people that have contributed to that enough. And I never will be able to properly thank them. But it's the reality is that it is still a job, right? It's still something that if you're trying to get some views to pay the bills or to help pay the bills or whatever it is, then yeah, some stuff gets done for content. But that doesn't mean that it's, it doesn't mean that it's not inherently bad, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's especially if you don't have the time to just be like, hey, I'm going to play City Skylines for 12 hours today and then record a 4-hour episode afterwards. It's I don't think it's a bad thing. I think there's a lot of people that probably do just almost exclusively play it for content, and that's okay because I fully stand by the fact that I think you do still have to enjoy the game. I think it would be really, really obvious if someone was playing City Skylines just for the views, but they didn't actually enjoy the game. I genuinely believe that, and I think
Mm.
that's obvious with a lot of channels. I think that's something you can tell. Like you need to have your heart in it at least a bit. That's like a YouTube industry thing, but I genuinely
No, I
that's
love that. I love that. That's totally fine. I also love what you said about or that you're proud of what you've accomplished on YouTube, which I can 100%, 110% back up. Like for me, I mean, my main channel is very, very small, so with like 2,000 subscribers, and but it's like for me when I was working so hard to get to my milestone of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, I've invested like a whole year of City Skylines content, of 2 videos per week. One video was like a let's play, and one video was like a tutorial, and I did that for 1 year straight. And and by God, I did. I've said to myself, I'm going to give myself 1 year to reach that milestone. And on Christmas, in that year, I got the invite to the YouTube Partner Program, and I remember I sat here at my setup at my computer. I got the email, and I was like, I told my wife, I was like, hon, I made it. And I just started crying because it was like, not because I was like, oh, now I can make some money. No,
yeah.
but because it was just that milestone. And I set myself a goal to reach that. And I got that. And I was like, oh my God, I actually did it. I can't believe I did it. That was such a such a great accomplishment for me personally. So I 100% understand that, fully understand that. And I mean, yeah, your stuff is amazing. Like I've watched some of your stuff. It's really, really cool. And I can totally understand that. You invest time in it. And so you're doing YouTube full time, right?
Yeah. It's been full time. I don't know. It's been full time since basically since the tiered city stuff or shortly after. Those videos sat with a few thousand. They did really well when they went out for the size of the channel,
Right.
and a few thousand views. It was a couple of thousand views more than I'd usually get in a cities video. And then the views kind of came in a little bit slowly over the next month or two, and then pretty much out of I think that just the YouTube algorithm just sent it out to people all of a sudden a couple months later. And this thing first it started out, it was like, oh man, it's got like 1,000 views overnight. That's wild. How did that happen? And then by the end of that week, it was doing 10,000 views overnight, and then it was 40,000, 60,000 views overnight.
Wow.
And my subscriber count was like, oh, cool. I got 10 new subscribers today. That's really good. That's amazing. And then, a couple of days later, it was like, man, I just got 30 new subscribers today. And then by the weekend, I just got 100 new subscribers today.
The number
And
kept
I think,
rising.
yeah, at the peak, it was like there was a day or two I got like, well, a couple of thousand new subscribers.
Wow.
Uh, because that video was just going out to everybody. I don't want to be like it went viral, but it kind of did.
But it did.
It kind of did, and I'm still sort of reaping the benefits of that a few years later now because it's it was a major contributing factor to YouTube becoming my job. But on the point of like setting yourself goals and stuff like that as well and being proud of it, and this is something that applies to it applies to me, it applies to you. I think it applies to pretty much every creator that's done this for a little while. It's and this is rich coming from me because I'm usually a bit of a I don't want to say I'm a bit of a downer, but I don't usually give myself credit for things. I don't think anyone does, right? We're all very quick to judge ourselves and be like, man, I suck.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but I think when you look at it, the amount of stuff that we have to learn to do in this job, like for even for what you're doing at the moment, right? Learning how, what's the best way to record a podcast?
Yeah.
Do I use Discord? Do I use TeamSpeak? Do I go back and use Skype? Uh, you know, what's the best way to edit this video? What's the best way to design a thumbnail? So you're learning audio engineering, you're learning video editing, you're learning how to use OBS and how to live stream, you're learning how you're doing graphics design with the Photoshop and the thumbnails, you're learning to analyze the analytics of your channel to figure out. I mean, I don't do this and I don't think that many people do, but I know some do, figure out what's the best time to release a video for my audience, what's the best day to release a video for my audience. There's so much stuff that you have to learn when you really get into this. And I don't think people realize they're doing it in the moment. You're just like, man, this is fun. I'm editing gameplay. I'm making YouTube videos. But yeah, you're learning, all of that stuff. And it hit me when I went to college for TV and film production in I want to say 2012. I don't remember exactly, but a part of that was graphics design. Part of what they were teaching us was, here's Photoshop and here's how Photoshop works. And I went in and I was like, I know all of this. And it was because I'd been doing YouTube. And then the video editing, they were like, here's how video editing works. And I was like, I know all of this. And they're like, we want you to use a Mac and we want you to use this software. And I was like, can I just bring my laptop in and use Adobe Premiere because I know how to use it and I can do exactly the same thing in Premiere? And they were like, no, it's not the industry standard. And I was like, I don't care what the
Oh
industry
my
standard
God.
is. Like, you won't be able to tell. And so they were like, no, you have to do it on this. If you don't have a Mac at home, because it was like Final Cut or something that only works on a Mac. And they were like, if you can't do it on this, you might have to stay late or get time out of class to do the work. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do that. And then I took the footage home, just did it in Premiere, and then come in the next day. I was like, here you go. And all I did was export it as a .mov instead of like a .mp4. So they thought it was from Final Cut. But that was all from being a YouTuber. That was all. I wasn't even a YouTuber at the time. I hadn't made it. I hadn't had any success with it, but it was, I taught myself video editing. I taught myself graphics design. And that's, again, you've learned how to do this and the thumbnails and the editing. Like it's really cool. It's something like I've recommended it to so many people. Just get into it. Just make videos, because you will learn stuff that you can apply to other jobs. Like, you want to go be a video editor for, like, I've known YouTubers who they have their own channel, but they're editors for other channels. And that's, so both the money from their channel and the money from the editing is how they pay their bills. And they learned to do the editing because they had their own channel.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that is.
again, a hell of a tangent. And again, it's another industry thing, but I think it's, you know what? I'm still on my soapbox. I'm still standing by it.
No, again, please. I love this. This is amazing because I love talking about this kind of stuff. I agree because that is something I noticed with myself too. What everything that you just said. If anything comes out of my YouTube journey, it's that I've learned an amazing skill set because I can do video editing, I can do graphics design, I can do data analytics to an extent, right? but
Yeah.
but I could do like, and that's all. That's like, wow, that's so cool. I've learned how various social media platforms work. Sort of like I haven't cracked like any formulas or anything, but and how the industry itself works, and that is something that's, for me, that's a win already because like I know stuff now that I couldn't do like 2 years before. And I taught myself that, well, with the help of tutorials. Because like, you don't know how to do something, YouTube has all the answers.
Oh
If you
yeah.
have a problem, somebody 5 years ago, 10 years ago had that same problem and is showing it in a video how to solve it. Like,
Yes.
yes.
Someone 10 years ago solved that problem and screen recorded it with their phone, but they'll figure it out for you.
But yeah, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
you like how to add a drop shadow on your text in like GIMP or in like wherever, and there's so many good tutorials out there, and over time, I needed less and less tutorials because I've learned a lot of stuff with my video editing software, with my graphics design program, and that's something that I think is really really cool. And yeah, I love that part actually of being a hobby YouTuber.
Yeah, I don't think you can put a price on it, you know? It's skills that it's I mean, yes, you can go and learn them. You can go to college and learn how to edit video and blah blah blah. And you can totally do it, right? That you can put a price on it. It's however much you would pay to go to college to do it. But the alternative is you just edit videos in your bedroom or your spare room or the computer underneath the stairs. And it
Yeah.
even if YouTube itself doesn't work out for people, there are YouTubers who have gone on to be community managers for different publishers and different developers. I know of several who have done that. I know of several people who learned how to live stream or learned how to edit video for their own little projects. And I won't say who or what company it was because it was sort of a it wasn't a confidential conversation. I didn't, nothing was signed, but I just, yeah. There was a time quite a few years ago, I was talking hypothetically with someone from a certain publisher, and I was like, so, you know, what do you guys look for in your in your media team? What do you guys look for in people that, make the videos, make the trailers, host the streams? And they were like, why are you interested? And I was like, oh, you never know. Like this was a time my channel wasn't doing amazingly, and I was kind of like, oh, what's the exit strategy here? Am I going to be a YouTuber for the next 10 years, which at this point I'm sort of committed to? But I was just, I was weighing up my options. I was just curious more so than anything, but I was like, oh, you never know. A 9 to 5 sounds kind of nice. So they were like, basically, what you've learned, what you do as a YouTuber, that was their answer. It was the whole like, you need to know how to edit videos, and you need to know how to live stream, and you need to know how to use Twitter and Instagram, and that's about it. And you needed to have, proof that you've done that. And if you don't, and I was like, well, what do you mean proof? And they were like, well, you can either have a CV and you can have, a former employer vouch for you, or you can have the work that you've done for a former employer. And I was like, okay. And they were like, or your YouTube channel. I was like, oh, okay. So that's the other thing. My YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, anyone that's done this, their YouTube channel, it's basically a big CV. It's basically, you go up to Mr. John Paradox and you're like, hey, I want to work in your media team. And John Paradox is like, it's, I love that meme. Just put the name John in front of whatever company or whatever name. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like, what's your experience? You just link your YouTube channel and go, there you go, buddy. It's I love it. I love that that's also a thing you can do, right? You can use it to lead yourself into a career for the companies whose games we are playing.
Yep. That's really cool. That's epic. I got a question that just came up during our conversation. Was it always your plan to go full time on YouTube?
It was an ambition. It was something I wanted to do. It was something I remember really early on. I had this idea that I was going to put in the work that I would expect to do if this was my job, because I never wanted to be blindsided. So I didn't want to have, and it's something I'm grateful for because it worked out with the tiered city thing, but I always treated it like a job. I always gave it that sort of respect as though it was my job, because if I woke up some morning and it was suddenly my job, I would probably freak out a little bit. But instead, I woke up, I freaked out because I'd gained like 2,000 subscribers overnight. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, okay, but I prepared for this. I know what I have to do. I just keep doing what I'm doing. Just keep working. Just keep the videos going. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. People are subscribing for the stuff that you're making. They are not subscribing for, the rebrand that you're going to do, instead of, you're starting a video like, hey, we're going to spend the next 35 minutes playing City Skylines. You don't need to take that and make it a 10-minute video of highlights with you screaming and like whatever. Keep treating it with the same respect that you had. So it was always an ambition. It was always something I wanted to do. It was more so I wanted to do something creative. To be honest, when I was a kid, I wanted to sort of be an actor or a musician. In my teens, it was more musician. I started learning to play guitar and stuff like that. So it was kind of I'd always wanted to do something creative, and being a YouTuber sort of fell into my lap a little bit. I got very lucky with that. And it kind of worked out because now I get to tell dumb stories. I get to make videos. Some days videos are more creative than others. Some days I get to do dumb voices. I get to do a lot of the things that I would have wanted to do. So it worked out nicely. It was definitely always something creative. Just YouTube kind of, I got very, very lucky with it.
So cool. Really, really cool. It's very important though that because what you said, totally agree with that you have to treat it like a job if you expect to do this full time. Like content creation, if you like YouTube, if you consider yourself a YouTuber or a TikToker or a live streamer, or like you have to treat it as a job. That's my experience as well. Like I still I treat it as a hobby, so I can't put more hours into my content creation journey. So I I try to I do with what I have, and just enjoy the ride basically. But yeah, if you want to get serious, you have to treat it like a job. That's so true words, 100%.
Yeah, I mean it's you don't want to be I mean surprises can be good, right? There's good surprises and there's bad surprises, and it's not going to be the worst thing if you wake up some morning and a video's gone viral and you're getting lots of subs and views and the ad revenue is starting to come in. That's great. It's something to celebrate, but what you don't want is for the dust to settle a little bit, right? You've gotten used to it. You see the views are coming in and the subs are coming in and you're getting more comments than ever before. Having an idea of how to handle that ahead of time, or at least hypothetically, because I'd never experienced that before, so it wasn't like I knew what that was going to be. But having sort of an idea and kind of having your own limits and stuff like that, it's really important. It's just going to be good for you as a person. If I went through periods where I couldn't. I mentioned the comments thing earlier. That stuff used to really annoy me, and it shouldn't have. In hindsight, it shouldn't have, right? It was people were interested in me playing City Skylines, and that was cool.
Yeah.
It's just that I was really interested in playing some other games, and so having half of the comments be like, half of them are like, "Man, I love Airport CEO," and then the other half of the comments are like, "Man, I love airports. Shame it's not in City Skylines." Uh, so it did get frustrating, but it's also one of the most true things, and this doesn't just apply to YouTube and creation, but this is a thing in general. Is as people, we are sometimes wired to sort of focus in on the negatives rather than the positives.
Mm, yeah.
And so what'll happen is you'll get 10 comments that are like, "Man, I love your videos. Your videos are the highlight of my day. I've been having a really bad day and this hit my sub box, and I'm excited to sit down and like have a snack or some coffee and just watch your video and chill." And you'll get 10, 15, 20 comments like that. And then there's one comment that's like, "Man, I hate this guy's voice. He's got such a fake voice. This guy, I can't stand him. Hate this. Wish YouTube would just delete his channel."
Oh my god.
But despite the fact that I got 20 good comments, that's the only one I can think of. That would be the comment that I'm sitting there like, "Man, I should delete my channel."
Oh god. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
but that was the one thing I didn't prepare for though, was like the idea that people wouldn't like what I was doing. So like that's something I now try to kind of remind people of. It's like not everyone's going to like what you do. Not everyone's going to like your voice. Not everyone's going to like your face or your thumbnails or how you play the game. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. They
Yeah.
are either going to like it or they're not. And some of them will just not say anything and never watch again. Some of them just need to feel that they've been heard or need to yell into the void, and that's fine. YouTube has some really great tools so that you will never have to see those comments. They won't know that you can't see them because it has the hide commenter on channel option, so they will see their own if they put something in your chat in the comments, they will see it. No one else will. It is my favorite way. I don't block people. I don't ever block people on YouTube. I just hide their comments.
Yeah, that is a very good option. Agreed. I've had sort of a similar experience in the past, and that's again, you spewing wisdom. You're spewing wisdom here because it's so true that you focus on the negative. Like you can have a handful of comments, stating like what happened to me. Like people are like, "Oh my god, I love your build style. You should have way more recognition." And then he's, "Oh my god, I love that city. Oh my god, I love that area. That is so cool." And then it's like one comment where it's like, I gotta say, this is the worst thing that I've ever seen built in City Skylines, and I'm like, is this person right? It's like, it just, you can only focus on that negative comment, and
Yeah.
that is really something that anyone that aspires to become a YouTuber or just to create content on you have to realize that there will be people, yes, that don't agree with you, that don't like you. They have never met you, but they will not like you because of the tone of your voice, because of the accent that you have, because of whatever, because of the stuff that you create in cities or in any other game, how you play a game, whatever. And that's something, nothing, I don't think anything can prepare somebody for that. But it's very true. It's very real. It's real for me, and hearing you now, very real for you as well. So it's something that you have to keep in mind at all times.
Yeah. And it's like I said, you and like you said as well, right? You can't do anything about it.
No.
They will either like you or they won't. And that's just life, it isn't something you can fully prepare for, but it's the reason you notice it is because it's the outlier, right? It's you've gotten so used to and it's also equally important sometimes to remember to acknowledge the good, right? You get 100 comments that say you're amazing, and suddenly you just kind of take them for granted. You're like, oh, that's cool, nice,
Yeah.
cool, whatever. And
Yeah.
then that one comment, because that's the different one, you're like, wait a minute, what? What the hell's this?
Yeah.
What? He doesn't like my video. Uh, it's fine. It's difficult to prepare for, but that was my approach. Really, was just trying to like that was the one thing I didn't prepare for, I guess, because there was like 6 months I had the comments turned off on my channel because it was just it got to be a bit much.
Oh
But
my
again,
God. Okay.
YouTube has those tools to deal with all that. It has, if you don't want to see those comments, you don't have to see those comments.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. And I love that that option is there. So I'm
Oh
with you
yeah.
there 100%. I said that I don't really play City Skylines for fun anymore, which I guess it's only the half truth because I have to revise that because I just saw the next question that I prepared for you. And it's about live streaming because that's actually because I live stream. I know that you live stream and you mentioned that you live stream as well. And that's a place where I would consider myself playing for fun because that is something completely different than, to me, something completely different than creating a YouTube video. Just sitting back for an hour or two, chill, live streaming, talking with the community, talking with people that stop by in the stream, and basically just building, just building in City Skylines for fun. It's just for fun. I mean, creating content for YouTube is also fun for me, but that's, playing the game for content. I Technically it is as well if you live stream, but it just feels, to me, it just feels like it's just like it's more of a chill vibe. You have fun, you have some laughs, you play the game. It feels to me as if that is where I think less about content creation than when, of course, creating a YouTube video. How is that for you, and how are the differences for you between live streaming and creating videos for YouTube?
I mean, I feel exactly the same way, right? It's YouTube is YouTube is like the professional side of me. That's the side of me where I'm going to sit down and I'll sit up straight in my chair and I'll move the microphone around. And I know for a podcast, moving the mic around is a great thing to do in an audio podcast. But you sit up straight and you get the microphone where it needs to be, and you make sure you've got your drink, and there's my recording, there's my audio. Okay, sit there, deep breath, 3, 2, 1. You do your little sync, and it's like, hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to whatever. Right, like
Yeah.
you kind of have that. You have the beginning and end, right? And then when
Right.
you're done at the end, it's like, and as always, I'll see you next time. And then you pause, you just give it a couple of seconds. You just 3, 2, 1. You do your little sync at the end of the video again, just to make sure that beginning and end are both in sync with the audio. You stop the recording, you sink down into your chair, and you're like, okay, that's that one done. You take 2 minutes, you sit back up straight, you hit the record button, you go again. Twitch is and live streaming, whether it's Twitch or YouTube or wherever, it's like it's so much more chill. and it feels more like you're just hanging out playing a game
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about editing. And that's like, I love editing videos, but man, I am so jealous of these people that just stream on Twitch. I'm so jealous because I would love to sit down and play City Skylines or Manor Lords or whatever for 4 hours, 6 hours, do a 12-hour stream some days, and then stop the stream and be like, all right, I'm going to bed. Whereas, and I'm not saying everyone does that. Like, I know there's more to it, right? There's the social media side of it. There's so much to it. Same with content creation in general. But with YouTube, it's like if you spend, a 12-hour day recording, that's great. That's potentially a lot of videos depending on what you're doing. But you stop the recording and it's the end of the day and you're like, all right, I'm going to bed. Better get up really early tomorrow because that's 12 hours of footage I have to edit through.
Yes.
Right. And that's the downside. Whereas with Twitch, it's like I'm gonna get up whenever I well not, some of them have schedules as well. I'm painting with some very unfair and broad strokes, but it's like, I'm gonna get up early tomorrow and just do it all again. Cause you just boot up the stream and away you go, and you're naturally entertaining and funny and whatever it is. I wish I could do that. I do. I just my problem is when I do videos, I've learned I do half of my editing while I'm recording because I've gotten into the habit of knowing when to say something and when not to say something. So I'll do my intro. I'll explain what I'm doing. I'll do 5-10 minutes of gameplay, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna do this. And then I'll just sit quietly for half an hour and I'll work on the thing that I'm working on. And maybe that little bit gets turned into like a time lapse with some music in the middle of the episode, or it's just a cut. It's like,
To the finished. Yeah.
yeah. And so that's kind of why it can take like 3 to 4 hours for like a 30 to 45 minute episode, because you do your 10 minutes of exposition and then you spend 45 minutes building the thing, and then you do another 10 minutes of exposition and you spend an hour building the next thing because you had to do it twice because the first time around you did it all wrong, and then and then you go edit it. So it's that's I've run out of things to talk about, so that's why I'm grateful for not now. I mean in the videos. I
Yeah.
used to have nothing. I used to always talk about things. I used to consider my videos as like a one-man podcast. I would just tell stories from from life. I've been doing it so long now that I've told every story that I have. That's the problem. So now it's like, we're gonna build this thing. 45 minutes of me saying nothing that gets cut out, and it's just a cut to like the thing done. Live streams can be like that sometimes if they're a little bit quiet, but that's why the chat's there, and that's what I like about the chat, right? Is someone comes in chat and it's like, hey, how's it going, man? It's like, oh, it's going good. And they're like, what are you building? And it's like, I'm building this. And they're like, have you considered this? And I'm like, no, I hadn't. That's genius. And
Yeah.
it's you have that conversation in real time with people that are watching. Like I had something like that last week. I was live streaming Software Inc. and I have this thing I do where I make like the logo of my company out of they have like acoustic tiles that you can put on the wall and you can change the color of them. So I would use those to make like my company's logo. And someone in my chat was like, well, why don't you use the carpet tiles to make the logo and put it on the floor? And I'm
Oh.
like, I was sat there like, I have played this game for like 8 years and never considered to do that before. And it looked amazing. And I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't streaming.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I think streaming gives you that interaction, it gives you that freedom, and you don't have to edit it. You don't have to edit the live unless you're one of those people that streams it and then turns it into highlights, then fair enough. But I'm so jealous of people that just boot up a stream and they're just on, right? They just maintain those viewers for 6 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is. That's like that's the goal. I don't think I'll ever do it. I'm never going to go fully to live streaming because I don't think I that's the dream, right? I wish I could do that. I don't think I could. I'll probably never try, but man, I wish I could. I'm so jealous of those people.
Yeah, me too, a little bit. Like, also, I want to touch on something that you just said about telling stories while building. That's amazing. I admire that because I can't think of something else while I'm building than the actual building. Like, since my mouth can't do one thing and I can't play the game, it's always very funny because when I live stream, I usually start the stream with some just chatting and we just sit there for 20, 30 minutes, sometimes longer, even just talking about stuff. With the chat, and it's like, okay, so let's jump into the game now, but we can still chat about everything, right? And then I find myself just playing the game and just reacting to some messages, but not really going on with stories and stuff. So I can't really do that. So, I
Oh,
guess
it
I
was
I
it
would
was
have.
my whole thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
No, go
just
ahead.
it was I mean, so it came about because at first I was all about the game. I was like, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna put this here, I'm gonna put that there. But I mentioned earlier about 5, 10 episodes into a series, you've kind of done everything. So you get 5, 10 episodes into a series, and you're like, well, here I go talking about roads again. Or what I ended up doing was like, here's a funny story. Like, I'd try and link it in. I'd be like, since we're doing this, here's a story that sort of relates to that thing that we're doing in the game. And there's entire episodes of my old, and I'm going back years and years at this point, but most of my first few City Skylines series, most of the episodes will be, say it's a 45-minute episode, maybe 10 minutes of that is me talking properly about the game. And then 30 to 35 minutes is, well, the intro and the outro. And then the just me talking about whatever. It's a story about this thing that happened, or it's a story about this thing when I was a kid, or whatever, really. And it was a lot of fun. It's just the problem now is I've told all of them. I've told several of them several times. And so people are like, people are like, man, why did you name your city Linden? And that actually, that's one of the stories that I told several times over throughout the years. There was a missionary from Australia that I met in the street, and I talked to him for a while, and we were like, he was talking about what he was doing, and I was talking about how like I was brought up and how I wasn't particularly religious and all that. And he was like, oh, I respect that. I'm not going to try and I'm not going to try and push anything. And it was just a really, really respectful conversation with a stranger. And he was towards the end of it, or what I thought was the end of it. He was like, so what do what do you do for like your hobbies? And I was like, oh, I play guitar and I play a lot of video games. And he's like, oh, what kind of games do you play? And I was like, oh, like Gears of War and Halo. And he's like, man, I love Halo. Have you played Halo 3? And I was like, have I played Halo 3? Of course I've played Halo 3. This was this might have been before Halo Reach came out. So this might have been like 2009, 2010 that I had this conversation. It might have been a bit later, but regardless. And me and this missionary who had ended up in Northern Ireland from Australia stood there for another 30 minutes talking about Halo 3. And his name was Lyndon. And that's why my city in City Skylines 2 is now called Linden, because I told that story several times over in different series for the first game. And I thought it was a nice little callback to be like, hey, remember that story that you've all heard 40 times? Here's the reference to it because I'm never telling it again. And here I am telling it again.
Here it is again. It's an amazing story, honestly. I love that. That's really, really cool. As a homage to that person, you named this. That's so cool. That's really, really cool. But I do also have stories that I've told multiple times, and I don't shy away from telling them whenever I can. Whenever somebody points out something, I was like, oh, story time. You just reminded me of something. Yeah, very fun. Very fun. So, Dylan, you mentioned that you play guitar also, and I saw that you also create your own music. How is that?
It's a lot of fun. It's I don't want to say it's on pause at the moment because I'm always picking up a guitar and trying to come up with stuff. It's just that work has kind of taken the majority of my attention lately. But it's yeah, when I was like in my early teens, I wanted to be a musician. I was starting to get into like rock and metal and stuff like that. So I was looking at these different guitar players and these different singers, and I was like, I want to do that. And that's when I started like growing my hair and dyeing my hair. And I was like, I should get tattoos when I'm older. And I should work out so my arms are bigger and I can wear sleeveless shirts on stage while playing guitar. You know, I can be like James Hetfield or Matt Tuck or whatever. And I never did. Never really worked out, but you know,
The rest is
I
history.
yeah, you know, if it did, be great if it did. But you know, I play video games for a living instead of music. It's similar, but
It's
it's the same thing basically. It's
basically.
basically the same thing. I'm I'm the James Hetfield of City Skylines, right?
Oh
That's
my
you know,
god, that sounds amazing.
yeah, just you know, I'm not. I was about to do an impression. I'm not gonna. I can't. Don't have a Hetfield in me. It's fine. Um, that's it. I'm also gonna clarify that I don't actually think I'm the James Hetfield of City Skylines. That's definitely not me. But no, I do. Yeah, I've played guitar for probably like 15 years, 16 years. I went to like 3 lessons and I gave up because I wanted to play songs. I had songs that I liked listening to, and I was like, I want to know how to play that. And so the teacher, rightly so, was like, no, you need to learn like the theory and you need to understand the instrument a bit before you start playing these rock and metal songs, especially since these are rock and metal songs that you reasonably should be a lot more experienced before you're playing. And I was like, nah, I quit. So I just went home and put on like the Poison by Bullet for My Valentine or uh you know, Trivium albums or Avenged Sevenfold or Metallica. There was Green Day. I learned some My Chemical Romance stuff. I learned some Paramore. Paramore is actually the first. No, Paramore is not the first band I ever saw live. They're the second band I never saw live. Never mind. But I put those albums on and I was like, I'm gonna learn how to play these. I'm gonna learn how to play these songs, and I did. And that's the problem with now making my own music is I don't know anything about music theory. I know very little about scales, but if you sit me down to listen to a song within about an hour, I can have it figured out.
Oh
And
wow.
so I'm kind of trying to leverage that. I don't understand why things sound good. I don't understand whatever scale I'm playing a riff in, but I understand what sounds good. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come up with riffs and little solos and little like ballads, and I don't know what scale it's in. I don't know what the key of the song is, but I know it sounds good. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And then singing is sort of a side project that I've been working on sort of semi seriously for a couple of years, but I don't have, again, I never went to lessons. I just improvise. I'm just loud, really. So it's like if I'm loud, I might hit the note, and if I can hit the note, then okay. That's about it. I don't have any good technique. My throat usually hurts after like an hour. So if I ever did go into this seriously, the first thing I would do is probably I would probably go and get some singing lessons and actually learn how to do it properly. And then I'd probably also go to guitar lessons and be like, look, buddy, I've been doing this for 15 years. I just need you to teach me the scales.
Yeah. I mean, for what you're saying, for what you're telling me, I think because I listened to some of your stuff that's out there, and I think it sounds amazing. Honestly, I love rock music, metal music, and and I you did the vocals too on your tracks. Like those are really good. Those are really good. Everyone in the audience, go check out Conflict Nerd's music.
Oh no.
It's
Oh god.
it'll be linked in the description of the YouTube video. Go check it out.
Oh.
But anyway, back to gaming.
Which is
And
basically the same thing as we've
which we
established.
learned. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
established it's basically the same thing. More specifically, let's go into the topic of City Skylines 2. First of all, I
Oh,
would love
let's.
we're gonna start easy. I would
Okay.
love to know how you experienced the most amazing announcement trailer for City Skylines 2, and how did you feel while you were watching it?
Oh, that would be where we start. It's bittersweet looking back on it because little did we know how it would all turn out. But yeah, so my experience with City Skylines 2 goes back to 2021. I was sent a very early build of the game, and I was in vacation at the time, so I played it on a laptop, and I put an hour or two into it, and I never played it again. So I knew City Skylines 2 was coming for a while,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was a fun game to play because every now and then I'd see a comment on YouTube that was like, "Hey, if they ever did a sequel, what would you like to see in it?" And I had to either ignore it or play dumb, which was more on live streams. People would be like, "What do you want to see in City Skylines 2?" And I was like, "I don't even know if they're going to do it. I don't know if we're ever going to see a City Skylines 2 because I didn't, I'd signed an NDA that was like, you
Yeah.
can't talk about this." So I went completely the other way, and I was like, I don't think they'll do it. I don't know if we're ever going to see a Cities 2. But I think with the reveal trailer, I think a few of us also had early access to that. I think we knew it was
Oh, you
coming.
had. Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know
Uh
that. Okay.
I'm pretty sure we did because I think it was revealed at like the Xbox conference last year. I think I might have been something else, but I think it was. But we had early access to the trailer for a few days, and basically I remember watching it and I was just like, this looks cool because it was all CG, right? It was a fully cinematic trailer, but the
Yeah.
point was to show off the scale. And that was the one thing that they really nailed in it. They were like, this game is actually the details as well, because Cities 2, like when you get right down in there with the end of the camera or like a first person mod, there's so much detail in like the buildings and the textures and stuff like that and the reflections. Like it's a really good looking game. So it got that across, it got the scale across, and then of course the end of the trailer, whatever the line was, it was like, you make cities. And that was such a good line to end on. And if you enable subtitles on YouTube, I don't know if it's community generated or auto generated, but the word cities is capitalized. So it's capital C. So it's kind of implying like you, the community, make City Skylines what it is. And it was amazing. It was such a good trailer. And I was so excited about it. And I still get excited watching that trailer. It's so good, and it felt like such a great little nod to the community. It's like, you guys helped get us here. We've had an amazing 8 years or whatever it was with City Skylines 1. Let's jump into City Skylines 2, which couldn't possibly go badly. And oh man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know you actually had early access to the trailer as well. Yeah, I loved that trailer. I loved that trailer. It was it was amazing, and especially the part where it involved the community. Like cities are nothing without you. You build cities. You create cities, or what it was. I also don't know the exact words anymore. I sat there, I was so emotional because it was so epic. Like I love these cinematic trailers for everything literally, and this one was oh my god, because I was also in early access as well, and I think it was before, so I knew there was going to be an announcement, but I didn't know how it would look or what it would be like. And so when that trailer dropped, I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. This is really really amazing." and
Oh yeah, it was
I
so
yeah,
good.
and I like for me these it was like a few days before this announcement where I got the information, and I was like, I can't. I need to tape my mouth shut. Like how am I supposed to keep quiet about this, right? And I can't imagine you having to be quiet, being under NDA for like years before
Yeah.
anything happens. How was that in like the alpha version you played on a laptop? How was that first experience and your initial impressions of that early build?
It's difficult to remember exactly what it was like because I was on vacation. I was playing it on a laptop in a hotel room, and it was quite early. There were definitely hints of where it was going. Like it was visually like it was heading in the direction that it headed in where it didn't have that like yellow filter that the first game had, which was immediately something I was like, that's so good. And the user interface was similar to how it is now. It didn't have everything in it at the time because it was an alpha version, but it was immediately obvious that visually speaking, it was heading in a very, I don't want to say very different direction, but still a different direction to the first game. And it wasn't bad. I was looking at it, I was like, this looks good. This is running terribly because it was on a laptop. That to be completely clear, like that was, as far as I'm aware, it was running terribly because that laptop was already a couple of years old.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I was more so just excited that it was like I got an email or a DM in Discord or whatever it was, and it was like, hey, we have a thing we want to show you. And I was like, oh, what is it? And they're like, we can't tell you until you sign this NDA. And I was
Oh
like,
my God.
oh, I think I know what it is. And they're like, yeah, don't say it. Sign the NDA and then we can talk about it.
Don't say
And,
it.
and I was like, okay, send me the NDA. And they sent me the NDA and they were like, and I got invited to, I don't know if I got invited to a Discord. I think I just got access to a very early build. And this was before it was called City Skylines 2. It had a project name at the time, which again, I don't want to reveal because I don't know if I should. That might get me in trouble, but this was before it had like anything. They didn't have the logo, it didn't have like the branding. It was a project name and they're like, this is what it is. If you're talking to us about it, refer to the project name, not what you think it is. Like don't call it City Skylines 2. I was more so excited about that, to be honest. That was
Yeah.
one of like that's one of the most serious, that is to date the most serious NDA that I've ever signed, because it was like, yeah, don't leak this.
Don't.
We'll know it was you.
Oh my God. Yeah. On edge. On edge. I
Oh
remember.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember my first NDA, but that was not. That's nothing compared to that. Like, oh my God, this is huge. Like, this is literally huge.
Yeah, it was very cool, and it was I don't know, if I ended up actually, I don't think I told anybody. I think as like the announcement for Cities 2 was approaching last year, I think Paradox or Colossal Order was like, I think on social media they were like, hey, you might want to tune into the Xbox showcase this week. Nudge, nudge. And that's when people started DMing me that I know, and they're like, do you know anything about this? And I would just send them back a GIF that was just like a little, like just a little slight smile that was like, maybe
I love that.
I might know something about it. But I had a lot of fun with it. I really did. And they were teasing it before that. Like I don't know if you know about this. I know some people do. There are live streams from weeks before Cities 2 was revealed where the people in the stream are holding white mugs
Yeah,
with
Maddie and yeah,
parts, yes,
I
with
saw
parts
that.
of the Cities 2 logo on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember the subreddit was like, what does this mean?
And they were
And
holding, yeah, they were holding the mugs like look, wink, wink, nudge,
towards the
nudge
camera,
into
yeah.
the camera. It was like it's
I
so
love that.
hilarious. Yeah, I loved it too.
It was so good, especially like because once you realize, because I remember when I saw the Cities 2 logo for the first time, I immediately went, they really did that. Like they had custom mugs made just to mess with people because
Yeah.
it's a tiny portion of the logo. Like that was completely intentional, and that's the type of trolling that I really appreciate from a company. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I love that too. 100%. That was really really cool details there. Or trolling. Yeah, the proper word, I think.
It's so good.
So time passes and Cities 2 has still not released, but we have early access to a newer version of the game. When you played that, what stood out the most to you in it?
Visually, it was just really good looking. And I stand by that to this day. I think there were a few people that were like, man, the game doesn't look as good. And I was like, are you like, I don't know what people were seeing, but visually, like just the game just looked really good was kind of the first thing that that sort of stuck out to me, and that was kind of my first impression was like this. It's beautiful, especially once you go in and start playing with the camera controls and you move the sun around and you bring it down a little bit, so it's just about over the mountains and the sky's all orange and red. It's just such a good looking game. Um, Gameplay wise, it was weirdly, I don't want to say challenging because it's weird to say that Cities 2 is challenging. I think it's kind of one of the complaints I think I see a lot of people saying is like, hey, you make way too much money. But it was definitely a weird departure from the first game at first because it had the tech tree thing and the progression was totally different, and it was sort of possible to make, I don't want to say make the wrong choice, but if you're building a city a certain way and then you don't unlock something that's going to lead nicely into your city continuing in that way, then you kind of have to pivot. And it was again, I'll use the word intimidating at first in terms of gameplay. Like it took a minute, it took me longer I think to learn Cities 2 than it took me to learn Cities 1,
Hmm.
which again I think is weird because in hindsight I think Cities 1 has a little bit more depth to it. At least you can fail Cities 1 much easier than you can Cities 2 because Cities 2 seems to just give you millions upon millions of dollars immediately.
That's true. That does happen pretty fast. Yeah, with like your budget inflating. That's so true. Of course, upon release in October 23, there was some controversy that came along with the game. What are your thoughts on that? And I know that you've made a video in, I think it was beginning of February, mid February, where you went a bit in depth about your thoughts and your feelings on this. So maybe just like a condensed version. Don't have to go into too much detail, of course, but what were your thoughts on the state of the game when it released?
I think Cities 2, it's a tricky one because I feel very different about it now to how I did back then. My basic idea, my basic thought in the simplest sense is that this game needed more time. It needed maybe another year or more of development. I don't want to say, Paradox did this or Colossal Order did that. I don't think Colossal Order are lazy. I keep, people saying, "Oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. They're lazy. They can't do this. They can't do." I don't think it's not as simple as that. I think it's a very complicated situation. I'm sure between publisher and developer, and I'm not going to pretend to know any of that or know anything about that. But my opinion at the time was that it needed more time. My opinion now is that it still needs more time. The difference between then and now, I think, for me is that I am a lot less yeah, you know what it is? I'm not angry anymore. I'm just disappointed. Right? That's kind of where I've got to. I've gotten to this place of just being passively disappointed. Back then it was like I was trying to be involved. I was like, here's a video. It's like, I did like a short. I never do shorts. I never do, content for Twitter and YouTube shorts and Instagram, but I did one that was like, here's a way to get better performance in City Skylines 2. And then I think I did a video around launch that was like, here's the good and the bad. Like, here's what's really good, here's what's really bad. And it was performance was like the big problem. And then, like you said, a month or so ago, I did another video kind of talking candidly about Cities 2, which a lot of people did at the time as well. I think Diana really got the ball rolling on that particular conversation, which I think was a good thing. But I've kind of gotten to a point where I haven't really played the game lately. I haven't really been super involved in that community lately. I miss it, but for my own sake, I've resigned myself to just being disappointed in what we got, but I'm choosing to try and be optimistic for what might be ahead for Cities 2. I think, we've seen more recently there was the refund of beach properties or whatever it's called,
Yeah,
and
the new
there's
update. Yeah.
yeah, there's that promise to improve the game over the next year. There was the delay of the Bridges and Ports DLC. I I think we're seeing what could potentially be a lot of good decisions, But unfortunately, as much as people can go to forums and Reddit threads and Discord servers and say this isn't acceptable and that's not acceptable, and it isn't really. I've been a really big advocate for games releasing when they're actually complete for a very long time. I think we've seen the games industry in general that it's been a problem for years that developers will put out a game that's not finished, and then either they will rely on the modders to finish it, or they will never finish it, or it'll be a year and a half, 2 years before it's good. And sometimes that works. I think No Man's Sky really turned things around over the years. I think Cyberpunk 2077 with the Phantom Liberty update really turned things around. And I think we're all hoping that, City Skylines 2 is going to have that No Man's Sky thing or that Cyberpunk thing and really turn it around. But I also, and this, again, not to be a downer on it, and I am hoping for the best. I'm really, really hoping for the best. And maybe that's naive of me, but realistically, I don't think City Skylines 2 has quite the same hype around it as Cyberpunk 2077. I think the best shot that the game might have to sort of have that resurgence is when the console version goes out. If they nail it, if they actually get the console version running well and they have a lot of the issues fixed by then, that's their shot, because that's going to have a big marketing push. The game was revealed at the Xbox conference. I'm sure, Xbox will put a lot behind it going to their platforms. I'm sure Sony will put a lot behind it going to PlayStation. That I think that's the window where we might see this all turn around, or we'll see it fall flat on its face once and for all. And I'm really wanting them to turn it around. I really do. But that's kind of where I'm at on it. I'm just disappointed right now.
Yeah, I understand that. I never thought of it as the big opportunity with the console release. That makes a lot of sense what you just said. That could be the one point, like make or break, right? Like, do they get it right? Then there's a chance. Do they not get it right? It could go south pretty quick.
Yeah. I think it's basically, they had in a way, them delaying the console edition might end up being what saves it, because the game released on PC and was controversial and sort of, I don't want to say it flopped, but in terms of popularity, it really hasn't done any favors to either the first or second game. And
Yeah.
the fact that there's a lot of YouTubers that just don't really play it anymore is kind of a sign of that, I think, as well. So the fact that they kind of have this second release ahead of them with the console version in a roundabout way, like that might be enough to draw some hype around the game again. Because if they put out the console version in October alongside the PC version, there's nothing, right? It's you've not got another big marketing push for the game.
Yeah.
You're not releasing it on another console. It's already out on PC. You've got DLCs, but people aren't really going to be as invested in a DLC for a game that they perceive as not working, even if it's fixed by then. So I think I'm hoping that they leverage the console release as a look. We
Yeah.
know that the last year has been disappointing, but we've listened, we've heard you. Here's the proof that we've heard you. Here's the patch notes from the last year. Here's everything we fixed. The game is working. It is better. Let's spend millions of dollars to promote this and try and get people playing it again.
Yeah.
I think in a weird way, yeah, that console delay could potentially be a blessing for them.
It's very, very possible. Yeah. So there was one thing in your video that I want to sort of quote you on that, because it was something that hit home for me as well. When you said in your Let's Talk video that about potential, and you said the word is thrown around a lot, but you see the potential and you hate it because it's not like the potential is there, but it doesn't live up to that potential. And I found that was like so true, because the announcement trailer, the hyped, the super hyped marketing campaign, the dev diaries, the dev insight videos leading up to the release was something that for me like got me so excited, and so I don't know. I was just so hyped. I couldn't wait to open the game. And then everything that happened after the release was like, okay, well, now we're here. And it's just like I see the potential and I hate that it's there, but it's not used fully, you know? So
Yeah,
that was something,
I
yeah, I really felt that in your video.
yeah, wasted potential is a really big pet peeve of mine. Just in general, not just with games, but I have known people to be, and admittedly with people, I have no say over what someone does with their life, but I've known people to be amazing artists who don't do anything with that. I've known people to be amazing musicians who don't do anything with that. I've known people to be amazing. I've known people that make some of the funniest YouTube videos I've ever seen, and then they're like, no, I'm not going to do anything with that, and that's fine. If they're happy doing that, that's okay, right? It's not my choice, but at the same time, I'm like, man, you could, it annoys me because some of those people over the years that I've known, some of the artists, whether music or digital art or painting or whatever it is, they're like, man, I wish I could do this as a job. I wish I could like do something with this. I wish I didn't have to go and work retail or work in fast food or work in an office or whatever it is. And I'm sitting there like championing. I'm like the biggest fan. I'm like, just do it. Just make a video. I will teach you. I will teach you how to edit videos. Or I'll, like, I've known people that are with art specifically. I'm like, you could stream that, go and do like an art stream on Twitch. And they're like, yeah, but no one's going to watch it. And I'm like, yeah, but some people might. And then what you can do is take that live stream and speed it up into a time lapse. And there's your YouTube video. And then you speed it up again. And there's your Instagram short reel thing or your TikTok short. It's like
Yeah.
that one live stream. You can take that to YouTube in one format. You can take that to TikTok in another format. And like these are people that they're so talented. And I'm like, you could do amazing things with this. And it's like, nah. And it's like, well, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you're going to sit there and be like, but I wish I could do this as my job, it's like, just do it. Just start. So yeah, it's wasted potential is a huge thing that annoys me because with Cities 2, you can see what people could do with it. Like, Sully recently did the like an elevated metro
I
station
saw
thing,
that. Yeah.
which
Oh
is
my God.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was. Was it? It might have been Sully or someone else did a recreation of Silverstone Racetrack a few months ago,
I think it
and
was Sully. Yeah.
I think it was, and it was amazing. And I look at that, and I'm like, it would be so nice if we could do that without having to sort of cheat in the developer menu,
Right.
because that was how it was. Like there were no mods really at the time. It was just that they accidentally sort of left in the ability to enable developer mode. And so that allowed us to like unlock a bit of the creativity of the game. And I think that made people really mad. And kind of rightly so, right? It was like you open developer menu and there's all the fences that we could use. There's all the props that we could use. There's all the stuff that's not in the game by default that would let us make really creative cities right in the game. And that potential is right. It's right there. It's just under the surface. You just can't quite reach it. I mean, you can with developer mode and mods now, but that's
Yeah, but that's something I really didn't understand and to this day don't understand. Leaving out the option to detail like with props and what we have in developer mode, as you said, there's the fences, there's the benches, there's the rocks, and whatever you want, you can place down. And I remember on stream, I was like, yeah, let's test out developer mode, and I'm like, look at this. Oh my God, look at this. We can create our little nooks and crannies here. We can do like we can do everything we want. And that's something when there was it a tweet or something in the no, it was on the PDX forum in one of the word of the week or where there were like an FAQ section and somebody asked about like what about props or like, and the answer was, well, there's no plan of adding that. And I'm like, wait, what? How
yeah.
can you dismiss like some people only detail in the game. They're like heavy detailers. How can you like exclude an entire group of players? I don't know how large the group is. I don't know, but like I love to occasionally just 2 hours. I'll detail a small area. I'll just
Yeah.
play around with the little stuff that I have, and I plant a bush here and put a rock there. This needs a bench. We got a little food court here. We got a decal, a tile decal from the promenades and plazas thing from Cities One, and like I love to do that as well as just build in scale in the city, like building the macro, but also going into the micro detailing. And I still to this I can't comprehend that they just didn't they just left it out. And
Yeah.
I don't know how it is now, because I don't know, but when word of the week was a thing, or more like weekly, and they were like, no, there's no plans for adding props in the game. I'm like, huh? Why? Why? What? That was one of the most fun parts of City Skylines. How do you keep that out?
It's a weird choice. It feels, and again, I don't want to assume that I know any of the inner workings of it, but it's Cities 1 was, I think, one of the biggest criticisms that Cities 1 faced was that it was a very good city painter, not a very good city manager. And I feel like they took that personally, because Cities 2 sort of tries to go the other way. It's like, hey, here's all this stuff you can do to manage your city. You can even follow your Sims on social media. But hey, you want to detail your city? Nah, bud.
Nope.
Not going to be doing that. Can't do that. Which hopefully they've kind of realized was a bit of a misstep. But I think it's to sort of talk about the second chance for the game again briefly. Something I've been sitting thinking about recently, and I've mentioned in different videos here and there that a lot of the cities creators talk amongst themselves, and we all have different chats on different Discord servers that we all kind of, obviously none of us talk about what gets said in there. It's very it's very it's a very safe space for us to just be like, I'm just frustrated today, and like I tried this, can someone help? Like I love it. I love that those Discords exist, and I love being a part of them. But something I've been tempted to bring up as a topic in those lately is that I think we're in a weird catch 22 with City Skylines 2 at the moment, in that there are less people watching and playing City Skylines 2. Therefore, there are less people making videos about City Skylines 2. But because there are less people making videos about City Skylines 2, there are less people watching and playing City Skylines 2. So
Yeah.
it just goes in that really vicious cycle. And that's kind of why I look at that console release as a potential way to break that, because a lot of us have already been called shills for whatever part we had in promoting the game, and
Right.
some of us will get listened to more than others. Like if some of us make a video that's like City Skylines 2, it works now, people will then turn around and go, well, you said it worked at launch. And then there's other people who, if they're like, it works now, they'll believe it, because some people be more critical than others, and it's whatever. I don't think anyone was a shill personally. I think we were all really excited about it. We all were. I think everyone was very, very honest, as much as they possibly could be about it under NDAs. And then after NDAs were up, everyone was very honest. So I don't think the shill accusations are accurate, but I just hope that they can break that cycle. I hope that they can sort of lean into it, embrace the creative players, change the management up a little bit. Let people have their props, man. Just let me build my food court, Let me
Yeah.
put down 50 bollards to surround that plaza. Let me just, and it's like, well, the performance will suffer. The performance is already suffering. It's already bad. It couldn't possibly get any worse. My traffic goes at 2 miles per hour. What difference is it going to make if they go at 1 mile an hour?
Yep, exactly. And it's very interesting that you bring up the following the citizens on social media before, because that's also something that I took from your video for this interview, is when you said it seems like they have done a lot of things because they can, instead of thinking, should we do them? Like following the citizens around. Because like that example, that specific feature is something where I was like, okay, This is amazing. I love this feature. I'm going to follow the Sims. I'm going to follow the citizens around the city. I'm going to create little stories. That's going to be my videos. This is all this lore. And then, you follow somebody and you want to check in on them. Oh, they're in their house. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's check back an hour later. Oh, they're in their house. Okay. Let's check back 30 minutes. Okay. They're in their house. Okay. Um,
I'm
I mean, obviously they're going to be at home at some point, the
yeah.
Sims, right? But it's like, I thought, I don't know, I thought it would be different, more action packed, that feature. We would see more, the, the citizen doing more stuff. I don't know.
Oh man,
Instead, they're just like sitting at home.
I was exactly the same. I had exactly that reaction. I was like, man, I can like tell stories with my
Yeah.
Sims. You mentioned them not being action packed. There's one in particular I remember that was super action packed. There was this one woman I was following, and we'll say it was, it was January 2020 or whatever year it was, January 2024, whatever it might have been. And I started following her, and I see an update. It's like, just moved into this new house, super excited. And then a month later, just met this really cool person, hope it goes well. And a month later, just got married to that really cool person, hope it goes well. And a month later, just got divorced, moving into a new house, hope it goes well. And then a month later, just met another really cool person. A month later, got married. This person was getting married every like 3 months and then getting divorced and then moving house again. I swear the same person had like 20 failed marriages by
Oh
the
my
time I just
God.
stopped paying attention. And it was the funniest thing, but it's so unnecessary. Like it's like it is one of those features that I think we all looked at. We were like, that's so cool. I can't wait to tell stories about it. And
Yeah.
then you just forget that it exists.
Yes.
You just
Exactly.
don't care because it
Exactly.
doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. It's just fluff. It's just a bit of flavor text. Like it was a really cool idea,
Yeah.
but it just ends up being for nothing. It's kind of like the radios having the whole like the news alerts. It's like, oh, the mayor is excited to announce that we're selling excess power to the region. That's bringing us some money for the city. More at 11. And then the next day, you get the same thing because you're still selling excess power.
Yeah.
So, like an hour later, the mayor is excited to announce today that we're selling excess power to the region, generating great revenue for the city. More at 11. A really cool idea, but again,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of annoying. So you turn it off and you don't pay attention to it, much like following The Sims.
Yeah, that's another thing though. I thought when I heard like, oh, the broadcasts actually follow along with what the player is doing and give you updates on that, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. So then what needs fixing in your city, right? Like maybe you have some issues in your city, you're not really sure, and then you hear the broadcast, the drinking water is poisoned with sewage or whatever, I don't know, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to fix this. So I again, as the following the citizens around, I thought that's going to be a super amazing feature, but it turned out as you just described it. You hear that today, you hear that tomorrow, you hear that the day after, and
Yeah.
it's, oh my God, it's like, wow. There's a lot of stuff actually from the Dev Diaries, the Dev Insight videos, where I was like, wow, this is going to blow my mind. This is going to be so awesome, and it turned out just to be like a little gust of wind sort of. I feel bad talking like this, but because I'm the same as you, and probably like most, if not all, other content creators that focus their channel or their content creation being their persona around City Skylines. I want this to work. I really want this to work. Yeah, I do have I do have some doubts though. I don't know. I mean, the last message, the news update, new update. What was it called?
The way
With
forward or the road
the way
forward, something like
forward.
that.
Yeah, I mean that did give me some hope for sure. I mean, just please now we need actions to go along with those words in time, and then everything will be good, because I did like that message, but again, a bit cautious, and just well, we'll wait and see. But yeah, cautiously optimistic. I'm gonna
Yeah, that's the
say.
best way to put it. I completely agree. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also, to be honest, this is my line in the sand. This is my, like, and I hate to say it because I have been fortunate enough to work with Paradox on with like City Skylines, early access to all of the DLCs for the first game, and I've had some, this isn't me saying like if they don't get this right, I'm done with I'm breaking up with Paradox.
Yeah.
Um, it's not that, it's just that if this doesn't work, if this, I'm probably gonna just be like, all right, well, I'll wait for City Skylines 3, basically. I'll go back and play the first one. I'll play the second one occasionally. Maybe it'll be good somewhere down the line, but I'll probably stop actively paying attention to it until someone DMs me in a year or two and is like, man, you should try it. It's got really good. Because it feels like we've been in this cycle for the last 6 months. Because it's been 6 months since it came out, which is hard to believe, but it's it's kind of been 6 months of like, oh, the next patch is going to be great. The next patch is going to be great. We'll fix it in the next one. And there's been some great fixes, but then it was like, we're going to stop doing the weekly patches and we're now only going to include them in big updates.
Yeah, I
And it
know.
was like, I don't know about that one, Chief. And then it was like, oh, the first DLC is going to be coming out and it's going to be beach properties and it's going to have some houses and a couple of trees and it's going to be $10. And everyone was kind of like, I don't know about that one, Chief. The game still doesn't quite work and you're going to charge $10 for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the assets, the trees look great. The buildings look great. I've played around with them a little bit, but it's like I said earlier, right? We all kind of want games to release in a completed state. I don't think charging money for a DLC when the game wasn't quite working was a very good choice. So we've kind of been in this cycle and it's not been good. So for me, the line in the sand is like, this is it. You've said you're going to spend the next year making it good. If you don't, all right, best luck to you. I'm going to go and no line, no life manor lords, basically.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a sad topic. And it quickly just going into, because I think it fits the conversation now. When I initially heard about City Skylines, I was like, oh my god, it's actually happening. And then I saw, the trailer, dev diary videos, dev insight videos. Joy Build Cities and we did some reactions and we broke down those videos, find clues and try to find the meaning behind everything. And I was like, this could I thought to myself, this could actually like be my, in air quotes, big breakthrough, because I have early access. I have such an advantage. I get to know the game, and because I thought when I was looking through the PDF files for the dev diaries, because we got those little PDF notes
Yeah.
when everything was explained, and I was highlighting stuff for the breakdown video, and I was like, I know so much about this game. I'm going to knock it out of the park. I'm going to, and I had like scripts. I wrote like 10 scripts already, like, which never saw the light of day as videos because everything just came differently when I first opened the game, which was a bit devastating, honestly, because I was like, I had such high hopes because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna like, this is gonna be, my channel is going to be Tutorial City, right? I'm going to, what I did with Cities 1, I'm going to continue that trend in Cities 2, and it's going to be super epic. And then it's like, oh my god, it was such a letdown, almost like a gut punch. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god. And we had those this early access. We were allowed to do those 3 videos with like 30 minutes, and
Yeah.
the and I
Yeah.
started the first one, and I did, and I was like, can I continue? Should I continue with this even? Because of how it just there's just something, I don't know, fundamentally different. Cities 2 to Cities 1, even with like performance issues aside, and like the way that the game feels to me is just, I don't know. It's so different from Cities 1,
Yeah.
and if you remember, I said I was never like the person that likes simulation type games. And what you also stated is that City Skylines leans heavily into that management simulation aspect, whereas the first one was called, oh, this is a city painter, and maybe they took it, the wrong way and decided like, we're going to make this one now. This is all simulation now. and but that's just not what I like. You know what I'm saying? It's just like
Yeah.
I never liked these kind of games, and that's what was cool about City Skylines. It was so different. The first one, it was so different from a simulation game. Like you didn't have to like, I don't know. It's just like completely different. And I mean, I guess that's fair because you would want a sequel to have like it should be different to an extent, right? And but yeah, to me, it just felt I felt floored honestly when I opened the game the first time and then tried to get through those videos. I had a group of friends on Discord where we talked on a regular basis and we kind of planned our video like from the early access group. We kind of planned our videos together. But I was like, I'm glad those people were there for me because without them I don't think I could have done my third video. But yeah, so it was just really rough. And nowadays I'm just like trying to play the game. Like I got like 120 hours in the game,
Yeah.
and uh, I'm not sure how much more hours I can get because like the more I it's like I
Oh, I
maybe
know that feeling. I'm at 216, whereas with City Skylines 1, I've got about 3,000 in City Skylines 1, which is nothing compared to some people.
yeah.
Um, but then I look at Manor Lords, which I've been playing for about a week or so, which I keep bringing up. It's just neat. It's the thing I've been playing recently that's sort of a city
No,
builder.
that's fair.
I've got 34 hours in that in a week, whereas in City Skylines 2 in 6 months, I've got 216,
Yeah.
and it should be so much more. It's like you said, my channel was a little stagnant for a few years, wasn't really growing, wasn't really shrinking. It was just sort of staying where it was. I started doing some City Skyline stuff. It started growing again really nicely, and then the game came out and fell flat in its face, and all the growth stopped. So it it really took the wind out of my sails for a bit because I was like, man, I was really hoping this would sort of be like a little, kick up the backside for my channel again to get it moving somewhere again, and then it sort of didn't. You did mention about and this is, I don't know if we want to go into this because I know everyone has a lot of opinions on this. Um, you mentioned like the 30-minute pre-release videos and how it kind of wasn't enough time, and I felt that as well, and I think that was something a lot of people talked about. There was another marketing choice for City Skylines 2 that I will, again, I don't know how far we want to go into this because it involves other creators, so I won't go too far into it. But cities in the sky,
Ugh.
I just, oh, maybe maybe that's all we say on it. Maybe that's it because it does involve other creators. I don't want to get too specific about what some people did, but there were some choices. That was a choice. That was definitely a way to show off the game for the first time that I will never understand. I will never understand for the life of me why certain people did not get invited. I don't think no one there shouldn't have been there. I'm not saying like, oh, that person shouldn't have been there, but there are some amazing creators from all across the world who could have been invited to also show it off. There are some amazing creators in Europe who would have been much closer to show it off. There, even in Germany itself, there's amazing City Skylines players that could have been brought to Gamescom to show it off on a crane. Instead, there were some choice shapes that were made with the terrain tools and the roads, and that was the first bit of gameplay that many people saw for City Skylines 2. And I don't understand it. I just don't. It was I just I don't understand it at all.
I'm
I
with you on
oh,
that. I don't understand. We can graze on the topic briefly, sure.
yeah,
First of all, I'm upset because I'm in Germany. I don't know why I wasn't invited.
that's what I mean.
But no, honestly, I when I saw the because I was on the road when the event took place, and I stopped at a rest stop and opened my phone and just tuned in for about 10-15 minutes and closed it and drove just keep on driving
Yeah,
because
just
I was
keep
like,
on going.
what are they doing to this thing that like City Skylines is near and dear to my heart. Not only mine, like I'm sure yours and a lot
Yeah,
of other creators, because we have so many good, beautiful experiences with the game, and then here you have the opportunity to promote this game with an amazing concept, might I add. I like that concept. Cities in the Sky, the concept was really cool for like this publicity stunt.
Yeah.
But then you get creators that know nothing about the game. I don't know how far in advance they got access to playing it. I don't know. I don't think there was any stuff that they talked about prior to the, oh, we're going to build, you can start building this and that. Nothing. There was like nobody built anything. If I
Yeah.
like, it was just, yeah, some some shapes, questionable odd shapes.
Yeah.
and and I was like, okay, I do understand to an extent that they wanted creators that are bigger or like they that have a massive following, like millions of subscribers. Or, but on the other hand, I feel like there's, as you said, there's enough City Skylines content creators as well
Yeah.
that could have potentially been invited. There could have been a workaround with no face channels. Um, you know, and even if you were like, okay, no, we need like the massive creators, fine. Get half of the massive ones and half of the City Skylines creators.
So I think they did. I think there was a second day where they did have some cities, more typical cities players, but the
Oh,
second day was not the like the big marketing day, the big publicity around the event was day one.
right,
That was
right.
when the bigger guys were
Yeah.
there. And then day two was talked about a whole lot less, which
I didn't even know
I
there
mean,
was a day two.
yeah, I only found that out recently. I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure there was a day two. But it's like you said, like you're in Germany, you're right there. I mean, Germany's not a small country, but you're right there.
Yeah.
You guys don't have speed limits in your highways. You
Yeah.
can get there quickly.
And we have good train
Which
network.
yeah, which side note was terrifying the first time I went to Germany because I forgot about that. I'm sitting in a taxi on my way to Cologne to go to Gamescom, and I'm looking out the window and I'm like, man, we're going fast. And I look at the speed, I look at like the speed we're doing in the car, and I'm like, oh god, we are going fast. And but like like you're right there. I'm in the UK. Biffa's in the UK. There's guys all over Europe who have made amazing things in City Skylines, and I'm not saying that I deserve to be there or anyone
Yeah,
deserved to be there
I was
more than
kidding
anyone
about
else.
myself.
But the thing is, you are right there. You know, it's like it would have been probably so much easier to get you to the event who knows about the game than it would have been for so many of these other guys. And again, it's not saying that anyone deserved to be there more than anyone else, but it was a really strange marketing choice. I understand the idea was to appeal to a wide audience, but it's a city builder, right? It's not going to appeal to a wide audience. It's going to appeal to the audience that played the first one. And then
Yeah.
it's going to appeal to sort of, people that have played games like that. It was a really strange choice.
Yeah. Agreed. Marketing, from a marketing standpoint, again, I understand people with large following that they wanted them there, but as you said, like city builders, it's not for everybody. It's mostly for the people that did play the first game. And so if you have somebody with 1 million subscribers, that maybe 1% of that audience is going to watch that event because, nobody's into city builders, but then you have somebody with 500,000 subscribers and, 50% watch that event because they're loyal, the community and cities, it's a cities community. Why? It makes much more sense. It makes much more sense to me to get those bigger numbers.
Yeah, I mean it's basically it's I've been trying to make sense of it since it happened, and I've just been kind of struggling to
Yeah.
figure it out. And it's another one of those things that I at the time there was a little part of me was annoyed that I didn't get invited. I wasn't really doing too much with YouTube at the time. I'd had a rough year or two, so I was kind of on and off with work, so I kind of get it. But I was also a little bit annoyed that, I would look at this creator or that creator and I was like, well, why didn't you invite that person? Why didn't you invite that other person? Like I was getting annoyed on other people's behalf. And I just,
Yeah.
I didn't say anything because it's not my place, but it just blew my mind and not in a good way. I just, I get it. This person has 2 million subscribers and they're appealing to their audience. Their audience, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that more sort of hyperactive, like quick cuts and silly moments and stuff like that, and the whole like I filled the lake with sewage and flooded, like like what I said earlier, right? That's perfectly valid. It's not my style of video. It's not something I want to watch. It's not something I want to make. But these videos do 250,000 views. They do 500,000 views. Some of
Yeah.
them have over 1,000,000 views. Clearly, people like them. But is that the best way to promote what is a much more management focused game when compared to the first one? I don't know about that. I don't know about that one, Chief.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what the future brings. Again, I am cautiously optimistic. I hope that they turn it around. I hope that they'll turn it around. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like, even if they fix everything, and you know, yeah, I still don't know if I'm going to love playing Cities 2 just because it's so very different from Cities 1. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. All right, Dylan, I think we can agree on the topic. And before we end it off, because we've been recording for almost 2.5 hours, and I love it, by the way.
Oh yeah. I've got to be honest. When I sat down to do this, I was keenly aware of the fact that I rant and ramble a bit, and part of me, I went through and looked at the lengths of some of the other episodes, and I was like, I can beat that. Genuinely, a
it's
little voice in my head was like, I can beat that, no problem.
it's definitely the longest episode I've ever recorded.
Yes.
And I don't think I know I'm going to have to cut out a lot. So it's going to be over 2 hours. But honestly, again, I loved it. I love the talk. And to basically end off, because I would have one more question, I would sort of end it off on a really positive note. Can you tell us a bit about your future content plans for City Skylines?
I I want to keep an eye on City Skylines and sort of see what happens. It's like we've said, right? There's I am optimistic, if a bit cautiously, but I am optimistic, and I want to pay attention to City Skylines too, and see what they do. And I want to talk with the people that are working on it, because again, we have that luxury of some of us are communicating with them, and they're listening to the feedback from creators and the community alike. So I feel, even though I'm not as playing it as much as I have been, at the very least, I I'm enjoying being part of that conversation, and I'm enjoying that when I do play it, I even if I don't make a video, I can go and sort of contribute to the conversation, be like, hey, here's something I noticed, here's something we could do. But in terms of content, I think I I've only ever built one city in City Skylines 2. The city that I started with before it came out and did those 3 videos on, that's the same city that I have now.
Oh,
So the thing I'm most excited about, to be completely honest, is starting a new city. I don't know if it's going to be soon, but that's kind of the immediate thing, because I did load up my old city the other day, and like I said, you speed the game up to simulation speed 3, and everyone's driving at 2 miles per hour because it's got like 175,000 people, and it is what it is. But I the thing I'm most excited about with it is, honestly, it's starting that new city and taking everything that I learned in the 6 months I've been playing that first city on and off, and just applying that to something new, right? Having the layout a little bit differently, and kind of trying to create an actual city skyline rather than just having high rises everywhere. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And maybe a little bit, scale it down a little bit so the performance kind of stays manageable, but it's still fun. We could sit here for another 2 hours and go on about more stuff that's disappointing. We could do another 2 hours and stuff that we like.
yeah.
I think fundamentally, they have improved things. They have made it better already than where it was. And even, again, I don't know how much we can talk about on it, but before it came out, there were things that weren't, like contour lines, right? When we first started playing it prior to release, contour lines weren't a
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
we were like, hey, City Planner Plays is gonna be furious about this. And then like a week later, they're like, here's contour lines. And and I think everyone tagged City Planner Plays and was like, "Here you go, buddy." But and performance was a bit rough when we first started playing as well, and then it did get a little bit better before it came out. It's gotten better since. So to end on an optimistic, kind of positive, I am genuinely excited to see what they can do. I'm genuinely hoping for the best. I I want it to succeed. selfishly, selflessly, for their sake, for my sake, for the community, so that we can all just put this behind us and enjoy the game. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, and I'm looking forward to starting another city.
Nice. Yeah, me too. Looking forward to the future of the game for sure. So, Dylan, thank you so much for joining me on the show. This was, again, an amazing talk. I really enjoyed it. And for everyone out there, you're on YouTube, of course, at Conflict Nerd.
Yeah, I'm at ConflictNerd everywhere. It's a username that I came up with about 13 years ago, and it's better than the alternative. There was another name that I almost went by. I didn't, and I'm glad, even if Conflict Nerd makes absolutely no sense for what I do now.
I do like the name though. So on YouTube, of course, over on Twitch, you're on Twitter active, I've seen. So, and everything will be linked in the description of the YouTube video. So everyone, thank you so much for listening in. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and please stay safe out there. Bye bye.